A lot of these wheels were put in even further motion back in 2021 when Dan Snyder bought out the minority partners. And a lot of this had to do with the dispute over the name. But by doing so and maintaining 100% of the team, that actually makes it easier for him now to sell the team should he choose to. There is no limit as to what this team could go for. But, for example, the Denver Broncos, the team that was most recently purchased by an investment group that included Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton, that team sold for more than $4.5 billion. Forbes already ranks the Commanders near the top of the value list with a value of more than $5.5 billion. So that essentially would be the starting price for what this sale could potentially be.
All right, we want to bring in superfan Easy Street in right now as we continue to talk about this. And again, this is not a done deal. You have to get all the owner or the majority of the owners on board to co-sign on this for him to be voted out as an owner, or he can just sell the team and just say, I'm out. I'm going to keep it moving. So, Easy, let's ask you, you're a super fan, season ticket holder, your reaction to this news, if it is true at this point.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Good morning, Wisdom, Steve. I'm so excited, man. I'm excited about this. I think that Steve is on point when he's talking about exactly how much this team is going to go for. I'm thinking, knowing Dan Snyder, this guy has the most expensive beer in the NFL. He's going to want at least $6 billion. Now, keep in mind, I'm not sure I'm just tuning into you guys. We already know that Dan Snyder is going to have some say into exactly who he sells the team to. This is not going to be a decision made by Roger Goodell or anyone else. He is going to have the ability to sell the team to who he wants to sell it to. I'm just glad that it's, that they're reporting that this is finally coming to fruition. I hope they get the deal done as quickly as they possibly can. But I think that we have to look at a couple of things. I think, again, Steve, you are exactly on point. I think that when Dan Snyder came back and decided to own the team 100%, he was setting himself up for today. Because when he owned the team 100%, now he can be able to sell and get 100% of the proceeds. Now, we remember now, when some things were going on in there, that 40% group wanted to give up their shares of the team, he got it. He wanted 100% for a reason. I think that was all part of the deal because he wants to cash out for at least $6 billion.
You have to think, Easy, and again, and keep in mind, this is all, developing right now. We don't know how much work has already been done behind the scenes. Forbes is reporting that there are a number of people that have already been in contact. And you would think so, Easy, because this is a team where, if you look at what happened in Tennessee, they just announced their new stadium project down there. Their stadium lease was only up 1 year before the Washington Commanders stadium lease at FedEx Field. They're already well into that process. They've picked a site. They already have the designs. They're ready to break ground and go on that new stadium. We don't even know where a stadium would go around here. So you would think that the conversation has already been going on behind the scenes as to what are we going to do? Because it's not just buying a team, Easy. It's buying a team. Whether you buy all that property, the hundreds of acres around FedEx Field that Dan Snyder is also in control of, or, whether you buy the rights to a stadium, land somewhere else, you got a lot of work to do.
Okay, so here's the deal, Stephen. I'm so glad that you brought this up. The land is already there. The old RFK Stadium land is ready and prime for our team to come back to Washington, D.C. And I think that this is what Washington, D.C. wanted to see. And I'm not going to speak for Mayor Bowser or the city council or anyone else, but they were definitely not going to try to give Dan Snyder that land or the money to build a new stadium here in Washington, D.C. But now that he's about to be out, I think this is going to open up a whole door of somebody else to come in, to buy the team, to bring the team back to Washington. At the end of the day, that's what all of us want.
Right. All right, let's bring in Kyle Arrington. Easy, stay put. Let's bring in Kyle Arrington and Tailgate Ted and get their reaction to this. And let's add this to the mix as well. The fact that all these controversies kept happening, the NFL said, okay, Dan Snyder, you're no longer running the team. Let's get your wife, Tanya Snyder, is running the team. Then the congressional hearings, he wasn't available for that, so he had to do it by Zoom while he was off somewhere else doing some other business. It just seems like a lot on top of a lot on top of a lot. And then these owners' meetings, and then they said, okay, all right, well, there may be something in the mix here, but at no point did we ever think that it would come to this quickly. So, Kyle, we'll let you take your first stab at this.
I think it caught, like you guys said, I think the timing of it all caught all of us off guard. There I am, trying to, finish up a workout and everything, and to hear the breaking news of it. But it's also not surprising, just given all the, as you guys kind of aforementioned, the allegations, especially when you alienate a lot of the other owners, probably the majority of the other owners in the league. Like I said, between the allegations and losing all the type of partnerships, nobody also wants to associate their name, with the Commanders. So I mean, all the writing on the wall was for this to happen, but something must have materialized almost overnight for it to happen this soon.
Kyle, as a player, how much of this outside noise, as we'll call it, the rumors that are constantly circulating, the investigations that have been going on Capitol Hill, any of the questioning behavior that has been going on? I know as a player you try to separate yourself from that, but does that so-called noise blend in to affect the players at all? Might this have any impact on the game itself, or can you completely separate that aspect of it?
So one thing, that's always preached is talking about compartmentalization. You have to be able to compartmentalize. And, the players were all professionals, players, coaches alike. But I mean, that's easier said than done sometimes because all the constant outside noise. This has got to be unprecedented just over the past several years. No team has never, been through, franchise organizations, never been through this many off the field stories, allegations, and problems as this Washington Commanders team has. And when you're constantly thinking about things off the field rather than on the field, especially you're a player or coach, I mean, it plays an impact. It plays its toll definitely at some point. It's just a lot.
Kyle, hang tight for a second. I want to get Ted's opinion on this because, Ted, as we know, starts out as a super fan. But, Ted, you've taken it to the next level because you're one of those fans that really works with the organization. They get feedback from you. You get feedback from them. You're able to work collectively, which was the whole idea of having fans work with the front office. You've probably had more contact with the Snyders than anybody else that we have talked to. Did you see this coming at this point?
No. I had no idea that this was coming, and I actually saw Mrs. Snyder last week when I was at the stadium for a meeting with some of the merchandise and marketing. And the only thing I thought of when this came out is the Mary Jo White report coming soon? Is this to get ahead of that? And this is me speculating. I have no idea if that is the case, but as a fan of this team, you always wonder when the other shoe is about to drop. And hearing this news, and every statement that's come out from the team before this ended with, we're not going to sell. When the Jim Irsay comments came out, we're not going to sell. But Adam Schefter is a huge, mouthpiece for the franchise. And he retweeted the statement they made. And in his statement, it says, the Commanders announced that Tanya and Dan Snyder have hired Bank of America Securities to explore the sale of the franchise. Because I think they need money and they're selling minority pieces to build a stadium because no one wants to actually give them money to build a stadium. But when Schefter put that out, this seems like more than that to me.
Yeah. Obviously, we're still trying to put all the pieces together, and this is, at this point, can't confirm anything more than an exploratory option here to get some type of financial involvement to see where this goes from here. Ted, how much do you think, you mentioned Jim Irsay's comment. This, I think, caught a lot of people off guard at the owners' meeting, right? Because there had been speculation behind the scene, there had been rumors, there had been rumblings that there were owners that were not happy with Dan Snyder. There are owners that don't all get along. We know that. We've known that forever. But when Jim Irsay came out and he made those comments publicly for the first time, and even Jerry Jones made comments that didn't necessarily disagree with that, which came as a surprise, I think, to a lot of people as well. How much did that Jim Irsay statement make potentially, or at least in your opinion, as to the news we're hearing today?
Hearing the Irsay comment and knowing that it came from Irsay, someone that has basically no skeletons in his closet because they're all out there publicly. And knowing that that person really can kind of say whatever he wants to because he kind of has no fear for any backlash, I think it gave more credence to the fact that there are other owners that could potentially jump on that because he is one of the tent poles when it comes to all the other owners out there. I was shocked that he made them just because it was in a public forum. But then when Roger Goodell basically said, we are waiting for the results of the Mary Jo White report to come out before we make any comments or any statements. That kind of brought everything back. That's the only reason why I'm wondering what else is going to happen after this recent statement from the team.
Right. All right, Ted, stand by. So we're going to bring in Bob Barner now, who is out and about live on the streets this morning. And Bob, a lot of this is still developing, waiting to be confirmed. It's a process. It's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. But this is catching a lot of people by surprise, even though if you ask a lot of fans who are upset about the way this team has been performing and operating over the last more than a decade, they would say, you know what, this is actually the news we've been waiting to hear.
Yeah, and even if it turns out that perhaps what the Snyders want to do is sell a minority stake in the team, it's something. They would still be in control if they had a majority stake in the franchise. So what you believe with the statements and everything, and the article in Forbes, is that perhaps they are looking to sell the team in its entirety. Joining us is Liz, having a late breakfast here out on Wisconsin Avenue in front of the station. Liz, your husband is pacing over here. He said he didn't think he could hold it together to be on live TV, how he's feeling about this. Delighted, but, frustrated after so many years. How about yourself?
I think this is very good news. The Commanders haven't been great since the Jack Kent Cook years, and I think the fans deserve a great owner so they can have a great team again. We've got a great fan base, and I think it's great news that Snyder's looking to sell the team.
For a while there, you mentioned the old franchise name. Like Dan Snyder once put out a note, he will never change the name of the franchise, and he ultimately did. And he had fairly recently said he will never sell the franchise, and now it looks like he may consider that. When the name changed, whether you liked it or not, was there maybe some thought that perhaps next might be offloading the team in some way?
Hopeful for sure, but I actually didn't think he would let go of the team because he's been pretty stubborn about this over the years.
So identified with the franchise. It's given him stature in the community. Your husband was saying his phone's been blowing up. What are you hearing from fellow fans like yourself, your friends?
We just heard minutes before you walked over that Forbes put out the story that Snyder, I guess, hired Bank of America or one of the banks.
Bank of America, yeah.
Yeah, to sell the team. So I'm assuming everyone is thrilled because I'm not sure everyone was happy with how things were going.
Liz, thank you very much. Her husband, who's back over there, we don't want to put the camera on him, said, he's getting all these emojis from fans. He said he's been frustrated for so long that he just didn't want to be on camera expressing what this teaser might be and what it might lead to. So we understand that. There are probably going to be a lot of fans like that, and ideally and thankfully some like Liz who are happy just to kind of tell you how they're feeling. I frankly don't want to just start popping on people who may or may not be fans, may or may not want to be on TV, but when we get someone else here who's got some things to say, guys, we'll come back on.
Yeah, do your due diligence, Bob. Absolutely. We'll let you go ahead and talk to some other folks off camera, and we're going to switch to a different part of town right now. And Bob said it very perfectly, right? At this point, it's an exploratory process to find out basically what interest is out there, right? And supposedly there have been talks going on behind the scenes. You can only imagine that, right? In any line of business, you always know if somebody's interested in your business or not, or if you want to unload your business. But at this point, even with the word that the Snyders are exploring the sale of the team, like Bob said, you don't know at this point if you want to. You just bought 100% of the team, right? You don't know if you want to give some of that back, have some cash, or if you want to unload 100% of it and say, I have my time, I'm going to make a few $1 billion, on to the next.
And you're talking about a few $1 billion there. Forbes is estimating around $6 billion as far as value, right behind the Dallas Cowboys, who is the most valuable franchise in the NFL. So if he does decide to go in this direction, I mean, it won't be hurting for money. It won't be a lack of money that'll do this. Let's bring in Aisha Khan right now. She's in Northwest D.C. this morning, also getting some reaction from the fans in regards to what may be a potential change in ownership with the Washington Commanders and the football team. Aisha, you there?
Yes, I'm here in the Petworth area. So I have to tell you, I just kind of plopped myself over here and I literally yelled out. I was like, who's a Commanders fan? Who's not? Who wants to talk to me about the potential that Dan Snyder may be selling the team? And this guy, Paul, he was like, what? Is that true? And I said, yeah, it's possible. So you had quite the reaction, Paul. Talk to me about that.
Right. Well, I'll believe it when I see it because, Dan Snyder's held the team back for so long, not investing money in FedEx Field or putting people in charge of the team that, actually know what they're doing. It's just a shame. I want a team I can be proud of, like the Nationals or the Capitals. And we're Washington.